Hello, welcome back. It's Alexander Sebastian with Parents as Partners, and we have a new format today I'm going to try out with you. People have asked me where all these, the content for these videos come from, and I'm a writer, and I've been writing for 8 years for an expat magazine, and so most of these information sessions that I present have come from articles that I've written for these different magazines. And so today I'm going to try a different format, and that is I'm going to read and comment directly from the article. And the reason I'm doing this is that because when I write an article, there's a lot more information, subtleness of expression in them, and I think that just might be more interesting for you. So we're going to try this, and I'll look forward to your comments and see what you think about it, okay? So today it's a lighter topic than we've had recently, and it's called Expats and Pets. You know, pets have become so popular now, especially with this smaller variety, and expats who mostly live in apartments, the children often come up with, "Hey mom, can I have a pet?" Most parents dread that this will come. Maybe they've lived in a house back in North America or in Europe, and they've had an outdoor garden that a pet could run around in, especially a dog. And so when they come here, especially to Asia, and they move into an apartment, that space is gone and it becomes more problematic. So today we're going to look at the aspect of having being an expat and what it means to have a pet, because you know expats move on and this causes more complications. So we start out with the child coming up and say, "Mom, can we have a dog?" And as I said, this is a cry that every parent dreads but knows will come someday. For expats, as I said, we're usually living in apartments, so the plea can be heart-rending with all the pros and the cons. It is a lot more complicated for expats, as they rarely know how long they will stay in the place, and moving means all the hassle and expense of animal passports, chip identification, shots, travel arrangements, and for some countries, quarantine. If you don't take your dog with you or your animal with you, then you have to find a good home before you leave. And saying goodbye to a pet always carries sadness and the social shame, because people say you never should leave your pets, but that's an individual choice. But in any case, it's a heart-rending experience, and especially for children. So what should we tell our children when they band together and gang up against the parents because they want a pet? Over the last 10 years, the popularity of pets, and especially these tiny fashion canines, have skyrocketed, especially here in Asia. On cold winter mornings, I can see the masters hurrying their dogs through the toilet walks outside while they draw on their cigarettes in their gloved hands. That brings us to the parents' first line of defense when the children ask for the dog, and that is, who's going to take care of it? This opens the fallacy of the benefits of pet ownership, which is it fosters child responsibility. This can be the case. The task for caring for an animal, its daily needs, are certainly within the capacity of even a younger child, 7 years older and up. And the routine can instill an appreciation for the habit of care, cleanliness, and the necessity to give time to those you love. Because you know, pets, whether even cats or dogs, they all want attention. Having a pet can help build the bond between the caregiver and the receiver, especially if the children don't have any brothers and sisters. It can also develop time management skills, knowing that if it's a cat or the dog living inside, the litter box has to be changed twice a day, or the dog has to be taken out at regular intervals. It means that the cat has to be fed water. It means that It means the child has the opportunity to look out for these the pet supplies, the kitty litter, the dog food, the cat food, and tell mom to reorder. So there are upsides. It can definitely be this first responsibility for another being, instead of always having been cared for themselves as children. Now the child can learn that caring for others is a responsibility, and it has consequences if it's missed. And then there's always mom or dad in the back who can make sure that the pet doesn't die anyway. It also teaches that life is full of trade-offs. The kids' clothes are going to be full of hair, the toys will be chewed up, and their favorite reading corner will be occupied by Fido. Pets can also be needy, especially dogs. I have 2 cats, and I can tell you they are needy too, and they know how to bring their toys over when they want to be played. But dogs are full-on play, play, play. Pets can teach children how to share responsibility, and that pets require time, cost money, and sometimes require tough decisions between cost and attachment. There are limits to what most parents are willing to put their dogs or pets through, and at some time you're going to have to say goodbye to the animal. So that's a learning experience as well. How to deal with sorrow. So there are definitely learning opportunities in pet ownership for the children. But to the defense, when the kids say, who's going to take care of it? The kids, they always answer, oh, we will. They say they will take care of everything, knowing that their parents will see the job of walking, feeding, and cleaning aren't getting done, and the children will quickly realize that it's easier for the parents will realize that it's easier for them to do it themselves than let the pet die. So instead of the kids learning responsibility, often they learn that if they do a job poorly enough, authority will step in, that means the parents, and take up their slack and take care of the needs of the animal, which means the lesson the children learn in the end, that is, if I'm a slacker and if I'm good enough and persistent enough, those who really have the responsibility in the end will pick up after me. But besides the benefits for children, pets can also enrich the lives of adults. Many expats live alone. I have friends here who their lives would be a lot less joyful without the scratching of the cat on the other side of the door when they get off the elevator. Having a welcoming dog or cat when you are looking for your keys, you get the feeling that you have been missed. A cat snuggling up to you next on the couch in the evening gives you much appreciated company, and the animal listens without the interruptions and won't burden you with their problems. So you can talk about everything that went wrong at work, and you won't get any negative feedback or bore the person. Cats and dogs live, though, into their upper teens, especially dogs, 17, 18, cats also, in human years. And so you can have a long-term relationship with them. This is sometimes devastating for the owners when the animal is so feeble that the only humane choice is to have it put down. Cats and dogs and other animals are usually very flexible, and as long as fed and loved, adapt well to new environments. So that makes them good for expats when they move around. Once they settle in and their things are around them and their owner's there and they're getting the fed, they quickly adapt, especially cats. So they can add stability to an international family that's moving around. When the family goes to a new country, Missy the cat is there and things are more like they were back home. And there are upsides. Walking is a great way for the owner to get exercise. You have to go out, or someone has to go out, so they're getting exercise you probably wouldn't get. You have a chance to meet other people in your neighborhood, especially other pet owners. And a regular schedule of walking the animal can develop friendship with your new neighbors. There are also pet hotels now and cafes for animals and their owners. I have one just at the corner here, and I have friends who take their pets regularly there. They have a cup of coffee. The animals play together. The pet owners play together. There's another spot near the marina here where in the afternoon between 2 and 4 there might be 10, 12 dogs running around there, and their owners are sitting around on the benches having a chat and comparing the dogs and animals. So it is a social bridge to an enriched life, especially for expats when they move in to a new city. Dogs can bridge that anonymity that otherwise you wouldn't have and build a connection. The time you spend on your walk when you're taking your dog out can be time well spent if you use it for meditation, a time to clear your mind out when you're walking, not thinking about work. It's also a good time to listen to your podcast, TED Talks, or an opportunity to spend 10-15 minutes every day learning the language of the new country you're in. So you need to see that time walking the dog as an opportunity, refreshing, exercise, mind resting, and learning opportunities that you wouldn't have if you didn't have your dog. On the language learning side, if you just, every day you have to walk your dog probably twice a day. If you pick up one expression every day, that's 700 expressions by the end of the year, and you're on your way to building a good language skills that will definitely pay off in the long run in your new home. So there's Duolingo, there's podcasts, there's lots of ways to pick up that language, and as I said, or just write it down. One expression, one sentence, useful sentence, taxi driver sentence, or a restaurant sentence a day. One in the morning, one in the evening, and you will be surprised how quickly you will begin building your language skills. The problem is what to do when you go on travel. Expats love to travel, explore the country, and then with an animal in the house, that creates added responsibility and something else to deal with. If you're lucky enough and find people in your community, the children in the community who will pet sit, either stay at your home. There's many teenagers. My son does pet sitting. My daughter does pet sitting. They spend a weekend or a week at people's homes. Usually they're paid something for it. The refrigerator's filled up. And my kids love it, a chance to get away from home. And I know that the owners really appreciate it, that they don't have to move their dog to a kennel, and the dog is in his own environment and has someone there that cares for them. So it's a win-win situation all around, and it's a lot less expensive than the kennel. So, but it is a consideration to take in mind, and but it's certainly not a very difficult one to overcome. Through the international school or through your neighbors in your building, I'm sure you can probably find a child or people who would be willing to take care of your pet when you're away. But then what happens if you want to go away for the summer, for two months, or if you were going to move? This becomes a little bit more complicated. You don't want to leave your animal in a kennel for 2 months. And then there's all the paperwork. You know, now they have what they call pet passports that you can get and give it to the veterinarian, and it puts all she or he puts all the important medical information in it. If there's a chip, he puts the chip number in there. The vaccines that the pet has had, identifies the type of pet. There's also an international health certificate that you may be asked for when you arrive in a new country. And this is critical if you take your pet abroad. This includes the name, the age, country of origin, breed, color, and then the owner's name, contact information, address, passport number, etc. Some non-English speaking countries also require that the health certificate be translated into the language of the country that you'll be arriving in. But cats and dogs are not the only household pets, of course. They're bird lovers, turtles, ferrets, and we even had a pair of pet rats, Mitzi and Claude. As I have mentioned earlier, we used to travel around for 1 year in Canada, North America, Canada, United States, and Mexico in our RV. And when we came across from Canada into Maine, we went to a shelter and went in for a cat, actually, and came out with 2 of the cutest little mice you've ever seen. Mitzi and Monsieur Claude à l'appareil. They named one after my friend Claude in Quebec. And these 2 little vermin became excellent traveling companions and were a lot of fun. One was black and white, one was all white, Mitzi was all white. And as I would drive along, Claude would climb up the back of my seat and then up onto my shoulder, and he would sit right here on the shoulder. And he would sit there 10-15 minutes just watching the road go by next to me. And sometimes I would feed him out of my mouth, and he would run down my arm and then onto the steering wheel and over to where my coffee was, and he would drink out of my coffee. I know some of you might find this a little bit repulsive, but yes, he would drink out of my coffee, and they were great company. They would roll over on their backs when we'd hold them on our laps and have their stomach petted, and they would sleep with us. Sophie would put them in her hoodie, in the pocket of her sweatshirt, and ride around on our bicycles in the campground, and very proud to show off her pets to the other kids in the campground. We really got attached to our animals, and it was no problem crossing over to Mexico with them. We were very concerned about that would be a big issue. And also when we came back, no attention was paid to our 4-legged friends, although the Border Patrol went berserk about our avocados, and I think actually they did a sting operation when we came back into the United States. This officer was declaring we should have everything listed, all the food, and he's coming on board and went into our fridge, and no problem, come into our fridge, take a look. And he was very aggressive and ended up charging us a $300 fine for having avocados that he said we should have listed. Anyway, that was I'm sure a corrupt official, American official on the border. But as for the animals, no trouble with the pets at all. I might suggest that you, as we did, if you're looking for a pet, to check out the shelter, the animal shelters. There's usually a large variety of very needy animals, and you'll be doing a good deed if you take one of those in rather than buying one from a puppy pound where they're bred for profit. And I think you can find a good friend there. Of course, you need everybody on board, and you have to set up the rules of responsibility before you start looking at those sweet furry faces. You might also consider whether you're likely to be moving in the near future. If you are, maybe you can put it off until you finally arrive in the new destination. If you do get a pet, is the supplier a reliable and responsible person? And if they're supposed to be pedigreed, are all the papers in order, and the vaccination, etc.? Are there any restrictions to pets in your lease of your apartment? And be sure to check the breed to see how big it's going to grow. You don't want a dog that your children won't be able to handle outside comfortably. I see people trying to walk their dogs and they're barely in control. So you want to check that, how big and strong the animal is going to be at maturity. And you need to choose an animal in consequence of your children's ability to keep it under control. That's another downside, is liability for the animal. If it does get loose, or it bites somebody or destroys somebody's property, you have to think about that. It's probably not covered by your homeowner's insurance if you're overseas. And you need to instill that awareness in your children too, that animals can cause damage, and if they do, the parents are liable, and it can be quite severe. If another child is hurt or another pet is hurt, it can go into the thousands. Also, some animals are known for more child-friendly personalities, and for being less aggressive than others. Definitely things to take into consideration. Don't go for the fashion. Go for a pet that will marry well with your family and with the needs of your family. Fashion is a big thing here in Asia, and I would advise you to think about your children's and family needs before what the neighbor's going to think about it. With luck, your new family member will be living with you, with the parents, about the same time as a child. You know, children stick around till they're 18 or 20, 22 if they go on to university, if the parents are lucky. And the dogs also, as we said, and cats live to be in their middle to late teens. So you need a lot of consideration. You don't want to be switching in and out of pets, as sometimes is the case here in Asia, depending on what the fashion is. So you will have that friend with you for a long time, so you need to really think about it. So before giving a quick, sure kids, you can have a dog. When they ask, think about it, have your kids think about it. Look at all the pros and the cons. I'm going to say you're probably going to end up with the pet anyway. Once you start considering, it's hard to say no. And once you get it, I'm sure you're going to take care of it and enjoy it. And you'll get a lot of pleasure in return, I think. We certainly did from the pets we have. Okay, thanks again for watching. This is Alexander Sebastian with Parents as Partners. I appreciate it if you subscribe, and I'll be back with another point of interest for expats very shortly. Thanks again. Bye-bye.